Good morning, welcome back to a new class. Today we'll be looking at IBS, Irritable Bowel Syndrome. I'll structure the class today from another lens, so we'll look at the class backwards. We usually discuss the symptoms, the scientific understanding, the meaning of a condition or a disease or a syndrome, which is IBS today, and then we go into the nature, the answers, the psychological aspect. But today we'll go backwards, so we'll start off with the answers, with the psychological aspect, with the nature understanding, and then we'll work backwards to the disease and its symptoms. So it's going to be very interesting, and I purposely did this is because I'm going to give you a cheat code today to understand health and how to live a healthy, balanced, emotionally regulated life. These are 7 cheat codes, and if you follow these and if you understand these and you walk upon these principles, your life will be full of vibrancy, full of happiness, and full of unlimited amount of energy, essentially. Energy is everything. As a whole world, we're conscious, we're energetic. The earth, the planet, the cosmos, the solar system, it's all energetic. There's energy frequency going around the entire universe. And our energies is what depicts and what essentially holds power over our life. So if we have control over our energy, we can essentially have power over our reality and life. And that's what I'll teach you today. These are the 7 codes and the 7 understandings that nature has for us in order to heal our body as well as take care of our mind. I won't be using a stylus, so this class is an experimental class for me as well. And because I want the rewiring to happen differently, because I want us to think backwards today, I'll also give myself a challenge to not use a stylus and use my finger, which I can do on this board. So we're looking at IBS today, Irritable Bowel Syndrome. And this condition affects mainly women more than men. Men get it too. And it has a connection with the gut-brain axis. Okay, so our gut is connected to the brain via the vagus nerve. Okay, this is our spine, imagine our spine. And this is the gut over here. Okay, and as you know, when your mother is giving birth, your umbilical cord is attached. So your life begins from your gut, essentially. And then we have neurotransmitters or signals, communication going upwards to the brain. This is the brain. Large intestine, small intestine. Your gut is essentially a transformation area of consciousness. That's what the ancient civilization people believed, is everything happens from your gut. If you don't get enough food, if you don't have healthy food, you essentially degrade your entire body, your entire consciousness, your energy levels. Like I mentioned, energy is everything, and it starts off in your gut. There's a few things. So gut-brain axis is disturbed. It's altered. And then we have serotonin signaling. Almost 95% of serotonin is produced in our gut, mainly the small intestine. And when there is an issue with the serotonin levels, we have an issue with the gut-brain axis, because predominantly the communication going upwards from the vagus nerve is of serotonin. And if that signaling weakens, becomes low or gets disturbed, the entire gut-brain axis gets disturbed as well. So there is serotonin issues, okay, altered serotonin signaling. Then there is infections, visceral hypersensitivity. Okay, when your gut is sensitive, your mucous membranes are sensitive to the walls in your gut are sensitive to foods or bacteria, etc., and they react very easily. Okay, so visceral hypersensitivity, and these are the few causes of IBS as per medical science. What I want you to look at now is nature's mimicry. I want you to imagine there is a river going down like a stream, and it connects to the ocean. So I'll just draw that for you. There's a river going down, and it connects into the entire ocean. And it starts over here. The river starts over here. If there's too much heat, the river will dry up. And what happens when there's too much heat, when there's dryness, when there's not enough moisture in the environment? One of the symptoms in IBS is you get constipation. And it doesn't have enough water, enough moisture to push out the stool. You get constipation. If there's too much water going down and there's flash flooding, there's a rush of water, which in IBS is diarrhea. If you have too much liquids and if there's not enough water absorption from your gut lining, okay, when food is traveling through the gut lining, this is your gut lining, Okay, this is the long intestine. When there is food traveling through and it goes out the rectum here at the anus, if there's not enough water being absorbed, you'll eventually get diarrhea. And then there are sometimes dampening or blockade. If the river gets blocked, there can be a buildup and there can be a tension in the entire river system, which in IBS you can see as bloating, gas, abdominal pain, and if there is some kind of infection here in the start of the river, like there is bacteria, fungi that is foreign, okay? Let's draw green. Fungi that is foreign, that is not really a part of the natural environment. For example, when you take antibiotics, for example, when you take some sort of medications that can cause infection and that can cause inflammation in the body if you're sensitive, if your gut is already sensitive, okay, in IBS. And that's why you can get cramping here, inflammation throughout. Any sort of like pollution going upwards in the stream as well, or there's a disturbance and there's a shock in the entire river system, you get visceral hypersensitivity, you get your gut microbiome essentially gets damaged because of these infections around. And that's essentially your river, your gut, and a mimicry of what happens in nature inside your gut. Now we'll look at how to deal with all of this. How do you deal with strong ability to withstand infections, ability to withstand shocks, trauma, etc. How do you get a strong river system? How do you get a strong body? And hence, how do you get a strong gut or gut microbiome? So we'll look at that, and that will give you the answers, the 7 cheat codes to life. Now let's move on to the first concept of understanding how nature wants us to stay healthy. The principles in nature that define balance and longevity. The first concept is rhythm, which we see across nature. You can see that in tides and waves. You can see as the earth rotates, the sun goes down, the moon comes up, etc. Tides and sun/moon. There's a rhythm to the day. There's a rhythm to your body. You have peristalsis, which is your body's ability to move food down your food pipe and throughout your gut, and that can happen even while your body's upside down. So even gravity cannot stop peristalsis, even though you shouldn't do that because it's harder for your body because gravity pulls you down, but your body will still perform peristalsis regardless of situations. So rhythm and peristalsis in your body and in nature, okay, there's a pattern. There's a pattern when you're going to bed at a particular time and you're waking up at a particular time. There is no disturbance in that. Birds flying in a flock in the V shape, that's also a pattern which we can observe. Your sleep-wake cycles. As we know today, as nature helps us to understand that as the sun rises, we should rise before the sun so we can watch the sun rise and take the benefits of the sunrise for energy. Okay, there's something magical about waking up in the morning and watching the sunrise, which you cannot explain in words. It can just be experienced. Your mind goes blank and you just witness pure magic. And that's what nature wants us to do. And that gives us immense energy throughout the day. You'll notice it. If you watch the sunrise, you'll have greater, more sustained amount of energy throughout the day, and you'll sleep on time as well. So after dusk, you sleep as people in ancient civilization did. They used to rise up with the sun and go to bed once the sun goes down, or after a couple of hours of the sun going down, because they didn't have light back then, so they had to do it that way. They only had fire that they can light up, but there wasn't an abundance of light like we have today. We have 24/7 light, we have shift work, we have people abusing, going to bed 1 to 2 a.m., not waking up on time. It's sort of like a completely disruptive way of living life. And it's unfortunate for people who have shift work. And the harmful effects actually come after a while. You don't really see that in the moment. And because your body's ability to maintain its pain threshold, its disease thresholds, for everybody it's different. But for as long as you maintain a pattern, for as long as you maintain a rhythm in your life, whether it's eating meals on time, going to bed on time, waking up on time, as long as you maintain a pattern, you'll live a longer, healthier life. That's what science says, and that's what nature says. Nature's principles are in alignment with science, the understanding of science. Okay, and I'll explain that to you as we go out through the class. There is a rhythm to the seasons, the patterns in the seasons. Okay, there's a flow of life. Your life flows like a river if you are in a constant pattern and in a rhythm with nature. It doesn't have to mean you do the same tasks every day. It means you have certain foundations in life which you don't disrupt, like going to bed at the right time, like eating seasonally, as people did back in the day. People had seasonal festivals, they had their cycles synced with the lunar cycle. So that's how back in the day people didn't have hormonal disruptions. Okay, we have things like IBS, autoimmune, burnout, fatigue. All of that is because we're out of rhythm. As long as we're in rhythm with nature, we have this foundation set in our daily lives. We have daily rituals that we practice, and that can maintain, like that can be a foundation. Rest of the things that we do in our day can be different. That's the first principle, is rhythm. The second principle is communication. And this will all connect to IBS as we understand. And mind you, if you do have IBS, keep these principles in mind because they are what will heal you from your IBS. And I can say that, yes, you may have trauma, and that's what one of the biggest causes of IBS is altered serotonin signaling, which is caused by trauma, physical or verbal trauma, especially in childhood, can cause your ability to not produce enough serotonin in the body, your ability to not convert serotonin from tryptophan, which is a precursor that you get amino acid from protein that you eat. Your body's ability to synthesize serotonin becomes disturbed. You have low serotonin or you have disturbed serotonin production, which is, again, your happy hormone. Because you had so much trauma, your body's ability to produce happiness shuns, okay? It gets shut down. And hence, you have the gut-brain axis issue as well, okay? So trauma leads to serotonin issues, which leads to gut-brain axis disturbance. That's the pattern and that's the understanding of IBS. But if you follow these 7 principles that I'll teach you today, and if you stay with it, your body's ability to heal its intestinal walls become greater. Your body's ability to recover from being hypersensitive to normal amounts of sensitivity to resilience, immune resilience, becomes greater. Follow along and see how these patterns connect in your life. If these patterns connect in your life and you have IBS, which they all will, this is a cheat code to recovering from IBS. Communication, the second principle. Back in the day, people used to dance, people used to sing, people used to express their emotions through art, through painting. There is still satsang that happens, Vedic satsang, still in India today, still in temples. There's ceremonies, rituals that happen across. If there's a preservation of a civilization, they have these ceremonies that they do. In nature, there is a mycelium network underneath, which is a fungi network, mushroom network underneath soil. And the trees are communicating with that entire mycelium network. So there's communication at the nature's level. When birds sing, when birds want to form a flock, there's communication on that level. Everything has a sound, everything has a vibration. It's just at different levels, but everything is communicating. And as a human, if you don't communicate, okay, if you don't communicate and you don't express yourself and you become shunned, okay? Like we discussed in thyroid class, expression, self-expression, communication of emotions is across all nature, and it's going to cause suppression and a buildup of the thyroid gland being inflamed. It's important for you to voice your emotions and make communication. As we have communication with our gut-brain axis, our hormones are in constant communication with each other. There's a negative feedback loop across all axes in our body, whether that's the skin, gut, brain axes, whether that's the HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axes. Like there's different axes in our body. And everything is in communication with neurotransmitters, with hormones. So as you can see, in nature and in science, there's a strong communication network. And that's what we should have as well as humans. You need people to talk to. You need a voice. You need to understand that your voice matters. Even talking to plants, like I discuss in every class, talking to trees, they can hear you. It's just that they can't respond. Or maybe you're not sensitive to their response, so you can't feel it. But back in the day, even air, as we discussed last time in chronic fatigue, air, the element, was used as a way of communication, transmission of knowledge in ancient civilization. So communication is huge in nature and in the body, so that's why you need to communicate how you feel. Vulnerability, the books that you read, the artists you listen to, they all are expressing their emotions and they're communicating that. Next is microbiome diversity. Diversity, what does this mean? This means not having monoculture in farms. As we know today, we have monoculture and there's sterilization, there's fertilization because there's monoculture. Monoculture is when farms plant a single crop. Okay, there's a single individual, there's a single seed that they plant, and they replicate that across the farm, and they need fertilizers, they need sterilization, they need pesticides to maintain that farm, because the natural environment doesn't allow that. Nature doesn't have a monoculture. In your gut, you don't have a monoculture. You have a diversity of probiotics, of bacteria, of even worms, different strains in your gut. There's an entire, in your skin flora, skin bacteria, there's an entire microbiome over there. And various strains, various bacteria dictate how you're going to live, how healthy you're going to be, okay? How strong your body is. So imagine a rich rainforest, okay? In a rainforest, there's thousands of species. There is thousands of insects, thousands of even animals. Okay, there's birds, there's worms, there is fungi, there's bacteria, there is everything coexisting at once. Okay, and that's what makes the rainforest luscious, green, beautiful, rich, and deep. Okay, and that's what dictates its ability to withstand trauma. Your ability as a human being to withstand trauma, to withstand any disease, comes from your diverse nature. What does that mean by diverse nature? Just like we have diversity in our microbiome and in nature, we need diversity emotionally. We need a diverse group of friends. We need diverse life experiences. We need to be indulged in different cultures to understand each culture and evolve from that. The more exposure you have to different types of people, different types of experiences, different types of cultures, different types of interests, and that develops your intellectual abilities. If you have one type of friend all your life, if you stick to one path all your life, and if you have one thinking all your life, your ability to navigate through life becomes much less than a person who has a rich, developed brain. And development happens from different experiences in life. So having a lot of hobbies can help. Having a lot of friends can help. Not one friend, a lot of friends. Visiting different families across different cultures, understanding different civilizations, how they worked. This is what develops your abilities as a human being to withstand disturbance, to withstand disease. So diversity, microbiome diversity, this is what it means. Back in the day, ancient civilization, for example, they slept on the earth. They drank from wells, okay? I'll just draw a well for you so you can have a look. That's how they stay healthy. Grounding, being close to the soil, touching the soil, going into the ocean, playing with sand, all these things make your microbiome diverse. Their children played with the animals. They grew up with animals. They were not scared of animals. They lived in that rich, diverse environment, and hence they were so strong. They ate fermented foods, kimchi, kefir, yogurt, dairy was huge, even in ancient civilization. They lived in dirt, they ate different herbs, and they ate seasonally as well. And hence, they had a rich microbiome. And that's what you should do as well. The more emotionally rich you are, the more emotionally resilient you are, which brings me to my second point, is sensitivity within tolerance. Sensitivity within tolerance. What does this mean? When there is a tree, for example, the wind doesn't break the tree's branch off. No matter how, there's a level of the branch, there's a level of shock or wind speed that it can handle, that it won't break the branch off. Depending on how big the branch is and how small the branch is, every branch has its own withstanding ability. And just like, for example, there's a deer in the jungle and it's alert. Okay, it's alert, peacefully alert, not hypervigilance. When the deer is in threat, that's when it runs away. That's when its nervous system picks up. This is your nervous system. What it means by hypersensitivity in the gut is when you eat something, your body reacts. Emotionally, when you come across a small notification, your body reacts. You get anxiety because of an exam, etc. So all these things, emotionally as well, if you're too sensitive, you'll get paranoia, you'll get anxiety, you'll get depression. But if your nervous system is strong and if you can tolerate pain thresholds, okay, your ability to absorb pain, your ability to feel deeply without being overwhelmed. It's your nervous system. You're responsive, but you're not reactive. You're only reactive when there is a requirement for you to be reactive. If you have small triggers in your life, you can, through your judgment, through your discernment, you can navigate it through quite quickly, just like the wind flowing through the tree. Okay, it doesn't break off the branch. because the branch is strong. Your ability to withstand that, your ability to withstand the triggers in your environment, your ability to set boundaries. All of these things ensure that you have a strong, calm, sensitive nervous system that can be reactive only when it needs to. Okay, there's a yin and yang here. Now, back in the day, people used to hunt, people used to meditate, people used to perform ceremonies, perform rituals, perform warrior training, perform quests, okay? All these things were there to maintain and increase the capacity of their nervous system, okay? The more amount of experiences you have, the more your capacity of your nervous system increases to absorb, to deal with stress in your environment. This is a huge issue in today's environment because we're numb. The amount of dopamine we get through our lives, through our screens, we're numb to life. The smallest triggers, the smallest problems in our life, in our mind become very big. Because we're not numb, we are hypervigilant. And that's why we get anxiety, that's why we get autoimmune, that's why we get depression. And these diseases are not out of anywhere. They come from not being aligned with nature's principles. Next point is moisture and temperature balance in your body. Back in the day, people used to perform saunas, like Romans had their baths, and they used to shower in rivers. There's a cold and hot temperature exposure. Moisture and temperature balance. Your hydration levels in your body, hydration in the environment, rain, it all maintains. There's a harmony of temperature and moisture. And if there's climate change, again, there is stress on the earth, for example. So if there's issues in your moisture absorption, you get diarrhea. If you don't have enough moisture, you get constipation. Now you can see your health with your body's ability to adapt to temperature around you. It's a very easy way to judge how healthy you are. Okay, so if you can adapt to the temperature around you very quickly, okay, your body's shield, your immune system, your entire health defense mechanism is working optimally. Okay, this is one of the easiest ways to tell whether you're healthy or not. If you've been in the mountains and if you look at a lake, okay, the lake is not frozen. There's still water in the lake. That's a maintenance. Even though it's surrounded by the mountains, okay, even though there's snow on the mountains, there's ice, the lake is still not frozen. It maintains its moisture, its temperature. Okay, just like that, we have a balance in our body. As if there's too much water, we get drowned in it. And if there's less water, our body becomes drought as well. We need good amounts of hydration. We need good amounts of mucosal bacteria. In our joints, we have synovial fluid that maintains the moisture levels in our joints so the joints don't touch each other, so we can move. Everything has its balance. And if we want to improve our temperature and moisture balance, again, hydration is important. Hot and cold cycling, so being exposed to a lot of extreme temperature as well as cold temperature. Cold temperature will make your body resilient. So cold plunges and saunas are a great way to make your body resilient. Now, if you look at moisture and temperature balance, what it means emotionally, when you have emotional regulation, when your body's ability to not be hyperactive or overheated or shun down. Okay, so overheat and shun down, like depressed, and rage, anger. When your body's ability to maintain its balance, self-soothing capacity, your ability to self-soothe, it comes from the temperature and moisture balance in your body. Emotionally as well, it's the same thing. If you get very angry very easily, you'll probably get hot and cold very easily as well. Okay, and you'll notice that. I know this is very unique knowledge, and this is not what's discussed, unfortunately, in the medical world or in the scientific world. This is something that we need to pay attention to. When you notice something in your body, when something's happening, it's a sign that something's happening emotionally as well. Things like burnout, okay, things like rage, quick to anger, short-tempered, lack of self-soothing ability. It comes because your body is not able to adapt to different temperatures around in your environment. Metaphorically, if you look at people's emotions, they're different temperatures, different vibrations, different frequencies. And the more hypervigilant you are, the more numb you are, okay, the more fragile you are, the more your body's ability to discern the emotions of the environment becomes low, and hence you become either numb or depressed, or you become rage and anger, and you take it out on people. And back in the day, people used to understand emotional regulation through philosophy, through Stoicism, through Buddhism, through stories. Emotional regulation was taught through communication. People back in the day had stories that they told. There was verbal knowledge passed on from the elderly to the child through stories. And that's what made their imagination resilient. That's what made their life more rich in experiences, microbiome diversity. The more rich imagination you have, the more powerful your mind becomes, right? Hence why you should travel, hence why you should expose yourself to new hobbies, because this all works together. Next point is anti-fragility. Your body's ability to absorb disturbance, to absorb stress, your body's capacity to absorb suffering, trauma, hardship. Okay, you know that song by Kanye West, no, that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger? That's what this means. It means your ability to turn challenges, to turn hardship, to navigate loss, into transmute or transform loss into learning makes you stronger. Going through pain makes you stronger. If a rich rainforest gets attacked by some type of climate issue, some type of storm, rainforest will only survive if it's all of these. Okay, if there's a strong network underneath, if there's a sensitivity to intolerance, if there's a good microbiome balance, microbiome diversity, temperature balance, a good communication, it's in good rhythm, it will absorb the storm and it will rebuild after that stronger. In ancient civilization, people used to go on pilgrimages, people used to starve, there used to be seasonal suffering, the foods that were not grown at certain times, and hence you would imagine that it would make them weak, but actually it made them stronger. Suffering makes you stronger if you have the ability to absorb the suffering. Your ability to navigate through loss and not being degraded by it. Some people take loss emotionally very, even though it's very small or even though it might be big, depends on the threshold, but every individual has a different level of pain threshold, right? The stronger the pain threshold, the more emotionally regulated you are, the more emotionally absorbent you are of the shocks and the traumas in your life. You don't get hit as hard as you would if you didn't have all of these. So these actually lead on to one another. If you want to have a strong immune system, you need a strong microbiome. Your immune system, your immune wall, 70% of your immunity comes from your gut. If you want to have a good mood, healthy mood serotonin, you need a good microbiome. You need your body's ability to withstand poison. A lot of people these days have victim mentality, which is a disease in one sort. They believe that they're a victim to their environment. But it's not that. It's not you're a victim. It's just you're not strong enough. You're not strong enough to deal with your sufferings. So you need to be strong enough. You need to be self-reliant. Self-resilience is the greatest mentality that one can have. How do you survive on yourself? You are a living cosmos in itself. The amount of, you can't even see your mitochondria, okay? That's the level of the universe that you have within you. So imagine this entire universe within you. How is it behaving? How is it communicating? Is it strong enough to deal with a strong sun, or someone degrading you, someone verbally abusing you, So you have to make yourself strong. Back in the day, the kings, for example, they used to be fed poison. Okay, small amounts of poison would be fed to them. And I'm not saying do this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's what happened back in the day. Small amounts of poison would be put into their curries or I'm just talking about Indian kings. I don't know about other kings. I'm sure they would do that as well. But the poison would actually make them stronger to withstand a bigger poison, that if someone from another enemy's kingdom poisoned them, they would be able to withstand that. And hence they were given small amounts of poison. Small amounts of bad bacteria are good, and they make your gut microbiome diverse. There's parasites in rainforest as well. Okay, there's toxins in the rainforest as well that in fact make the rainforest stronger. That's what I want you to understand is we live in a day and age where we go towards comfort a lot. We seek comfort and not hardship. But back in the day, people used to go on pilgrimages. People used to take fasts. People used to have taps. Like in Sanskrit, tap is like doing meditation for long hours without food, without water. You're just sitting down, doing nothing, and just concentrating your mind or being in nothingness for 1 year. People used to do that for certain periods of time in their life. And that's what made their entire body strong. It didn't kill them, it made them stronger. So even when you're doing a cold plunge, for example, you see your pain threshold increase as the more cold plunges you do. Because even if you do a sauna, it's the same thing. The moisture temperature balance makes you stronger. When you go in the cold plunge, first, and if it's below 3 degrees, first 30 seconds will be hell for you. It will be very, very painful, very, very like you want to get out, essentially, of that pain. But if you sit and if you sing that song, if you make your mind withstand that pain, you'll come out stronger than before. And even fasting, for example, fasting is a great way to make your body strong. You're starving it from food, but it's only making your body stronger by challenging the body from shock, with shock. We eat every day, right? It's a regular pattern for the body, but when it gets a shock, that's when it becomes stronger. Same thing when your body temperature gets a shock, things are too cold or things too hot, your whole body becomes very adaptive. Your wounds healing from cuts, okay? It's all anti-fragility. The more fragile you are, again, the more, if you have one experience throughout your life, one belief system, one thought process, one path in life, you become fragile. If you have one strain, you become fragile. If you're isolated, you become fragile. Okay? And the isolation, again, leads to the next point, is connection to people. Okay? Connection to community, being connected with the wider world. Love, intimacy, vulnerability, again, communication is the same thing, connection to a larger system. So we see trees, right? They're connected to the mycelium network underneath. Your hormones are connected to each other, neurotransmitters, they all operate in rhythm. Everything is connected in nature. You're connected because of air. You have fire within you, which is the transformation fire. You have energy. You get energy from the food that you eat, that you're connected to the food that you eat. Okay? Without the food, you won't be able to survive. Air, without oxygen, you won't be able to survive. Okay? So connection is the greatest pillar and the most strongest pillar that helps you withstand stress, that helps you withstand trauma. Just like a river is connected to the ocean, a bird is connected to a flock, you're connected to the entire universe. And that's what, through stories, through communication, was told to people back in the day in ancient civilization. As there was generational knowledge transfer, through stories, paintings, art, music, ceremonies, rituals, it made their imagination stronger. It made them believe that they're in connection with the planets, they're in connection with the sun, the moon, the entire solar system, gods, cosmos, divinity, right? All these higher systems than what we just made, the mountains, the oceans, the horizons, that we're constantly interacting with on a daily basis. We're connected to that. And the more we believe we're connected to that, the more we have a strong family, strong friends, different types of friends, okay, different types of connections, the more stronger you become. Your body is connected to the seasons. Stress can disrupt your hormones. There's a connection there. Okay, there's a connection from your gut to your brain. And there's a connection across nature, a connection across science, and a connection emotionally as well. If you have a spiritual connection, it will make you stronger. A religious connection makes you stronger. Having a purpose larger than yourself makes you stronger. And guess what makes you weak? Guess what makes you fragile? It's the one strain. It's being isolated. It's being disconnected from your community, from your tribe, from your lineage. Okay, not knowing your past, where you came from, what civilization you came from, and understanding that civilization makes you connected to a greater lineage, ancestral lineage. Okay? So isolation, living alone, self-made, this whole self-made thought process is a disease. You're not self-made. Your knowledge is given to you. Your skills are given to you. Your ability to understand things is given to you. Okay? It's not yours. Your actions that you do are a part of the thought process, a part of the knowledge that you have. Okay? It's given to you. Thoughts get dropped into your head. Okay, and they get transmuted, they transform, and you act accordingly. You are in connection with the entire universe, with the planets. And guess what lack of communication does? It leads to depression. If you don't feel loved by someone, if you don't feel harmonious with the environment around you, people around you dictate your happiness. Okay, if you don't have a good amount of green, luscious, joyful environment, you'll naturally be depressed, naturally be isolated if you have a self-made thinking. We're not one individual strain. We're a microbiome that sustains one another. The more you realize these 7 systems of health, the more you act upon these 7 systems of health, the more you make better connections, the more you become anti-fragile, the more you become stronger, the more you expose yourself to rich experiences, to different thought processes, to different civilizations, even if it's not from your civilization, even if a completely different belief system than yourself. If you expose yourself to that, you become stronger. If you expose yourself to different temperatures in your environment, extreme temperatures, if you shock your body you become stronger. That which just doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So that's the philosophy of all of this. Staying in rhythm, loving, communication, expression, having spontaneity as well. Order and chaos, that they make you stronger. If you have a rhythm and if you have some spontaneity in your work, in your day, okay, it will strengthen your immune system. That's how you recover out of diseases. That's how you become resilient. That's how you can withstand any stress, any trauma, any disturbance that you have in your environment. You have this, the richer your health, the richer your life, the richer your mind will be, and the more prosperous you will be, essentially. So it's all connected. Your victim mentality leads you to not being able to take action to do things. You're understanding that your body is alone and you're not connected to the divine power, to the planets, okay, that are helping you. Every day has a different purpose because it has a different planet associated with that day. And in every civilization, whether it's Indian, whether it's Chinese, whether it's Mesoamericans, whether it's Aztecs, whether it's Egyptians, Romans, Greece, all these civilizations across history had the same chart for the planet for the days. There were 7 days, there were 7 planets that you could see with the eyes. Each planet covered each day. Sunday was for sun, Monday was for moon, Tuesday was Mars Day, Wednesday was Mercury, day for healing. Thursday was Jupiter, day for wealth and prosperity. Friday was day for love, it was Venus. And Saturday was Saturn, where you didn't do a lot of things because it was a dark shadow day. And according to each day, they had different rituals, different practices, different ceremonies. They understood the moon and they stayed in sync with the lunar cycle as well, especially the women. This is what life is about. The life is not about comfort. It's about hardship. It's about being exposed to bacteria. And that's what your immune system is also built on, right? If you are exposed to a certain strain, your body will develop immunity towards that strain and it will make you stronger. So defense, strength lies in these 7 principles. There are 7 planets. There are 7 notes on the musical scale. 7 is a sacred number across civilizations. You have 7 days. You have 7 spheres. 7 is a sacred number. And these are the 7 principles of being healthy, longevity. Now, connect all of this to, it's actually a framework that I'm giving you that you can take on with you and develop on it on your own. I've just given only a few examples to you from each realm. I've given a few examples, but it's your responsibility to develop. Talk about this with your friends and your family. Understand, and you'll start noticing people, okay? People who get sick often, they have issues with their body temperature. Okay, people who have gut issues, they have issues with their body temperature. People who have emotionally unregulated people, again, they have issues with lack of communication, lack of microbiome diversity, few friends, people who are depressed, who are more, they're more isolated, they don't communicate. They're not in rhythm. They go to sleep on the wrong time, wake up at the wrong time. All of these are pillars to your health. And this should give you a launch pad to take care of yourself. So if you have IBS, you get all the symptoms as I discussed earlier. Okay, we have gut issues, serotonin because of trauma, hyper sensitivity, visceral hypersensitivity. When your gut reacts to certain foods and either you get diarrhea or you get constipation, or sometimes you alternate between the two, But all of this can recover. Your body can recover. The more you spend time in nature, okay, the more you have temperature shocks, the more you can expose yourself to pain, not literal pain, but mental suffering, fasting, pilgrimages, getting out of your work environment, doing something new, spontaneously, all these things have an impact on your body emotionally and physically, and they make you stronger. And that's how you recover from IBS, is if you want to make your connection stronger, your brain connection, gut-brain connection stronger, if you want to make your hormones operate better, you have all these things. You stay in rhythm, you communicate your life, you communicate your self through words, through singing, through dancing, through ceremonies. It's so beautiful. Like, people back in the day, every season had a ceremony. There was a festival for every month, Whether it's the Vedic calendar, whether it's the Chinese calendar, they used to be in harmony with gods, with nature. If you go to Europe, for example, or even India, and you look at the paintings and the temples and the caves, the carvings, the pyramids in Egypt, if you look at the symbols that are being represented there, you'll see that there is connection, there is communication of yourself and the universe. There are cupids, there are gods that are painted on. Okay, people had We used to go to temples in India and across other places as well. And even they still do today on different festivals. To come together as a community, to communicate, to do satsang, to sing, to dance. But now we have nightclubs, which is completely opposite of the spectrum. It's like you have rituals in the day, ceremonies in the day, and then you have things at night which are degenerate, and you're drinking alcohol, intoxicating yourself, you know? That's another realm completely in itself. And people, it's unaligned with nature's rhythm, and hence you get disease. Hence, if you are in shift work, you get disease. You're more prone to getting diseases. And this is what science says as well. I'm not making this up. You know, if you look at science, this is what your body is made of. This is what nature tells us. Just like I've given the examples of nature and a rainforest and the rivers, okay? There's a connection across the entire nature. And if the connection breaks, and if there's a climate issue, you know, you become more vulnerable. You yourself are vulnerable to climate change. Forget about nature itself, you know? And again, I can tell you things to take, like supplements, eating healthier foods, noticing what you're sensitive to. But if you don't make yourself, this is what makes you stronger. I won't give you the Band-Aids that, again, there's a lot of Band-Aids you can research online. Okay, you can go on Google and be like, herbs for IBS or diet for IBS, whatever, you can do that. It's very easy, like high fiber, etc. You know, fiber is huge. But those are very small fragments. They are not the framework. Those are small things that you'll do, tits and bits, just like a wound. You know, you just put a Band-Aid on it. What if you just made the wound healing faster in itself from making yourself stronger from the inside? You know? And this is your thinking process. This is your key, your cheat code to life. And this is going to be the framework across every class. You'll notice the pattern coming up again and again as I discuss each disease, as we go through more diseases in the future. These are the elements that come up. If you can take this, make a mind map out of it, and see what examples you can write, see where you can apply this in your life, where all of this, like what you can do to apply these principles in your life will significantly improve health-wise. The reason why I wrote with my hand today is because maybe you could try microbiome diversity today. Or maybe brush your teeth backwards, you know, with the left hand, for example, if you use your right hand usually. And the reason why we looked at this class backwards, again, diversity of experiences, of hobbies, of interests, you know, it will grow you as a person. And that's what we are. We are meant to grow in life, evolve, not be victims of the environment because we're not strong, but be strong enough to take care of the shocks that come in our life. Okay, so you don't have to complain. You don't have to see setbacks as a failure. You learn from that. You navigate through that. You become better. No loss is losing, and failures. The more you fail, the more you lose in life, actually. And the more you navigate through it, the faster you grow, the faster you become more resilient. So don't be scared of discomfort. Go through suffering. Go through hardship. Go on a fast. Do a cold plunge. Try something new. They will all challenge your brain, and your brain will make new connections. When you have new connections, your immune system gets stronger. Okay, not only does your brain get stronger, but your immune system gets stronger. Expose yourself in nature. That's it, pretty much. Next week, we'll discuss hyperthyroidism. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next class.